Hello my friends, and thank you so much for joining me today. I know we've been doing a lot of talk about Milani lately. We did the full face, talked about the new Luminoso collection, and one thing I wanted to make sure I got to were the Gilded Mini palettes. These were sent to me in PR. I actually first tried to order a couple. They came in from Ulta totally smashed, and fortunately I ended up getting them all sent to me in a PR package, so I've been able to play with all of these Gilded Minis over the last, 5-6 days. And I thought in this video I could, review their overall quality for you and kind of rank them in order of my favorites. It looks like they run $9.99 at Ulta. I'm not super impressed by Ulta's shipping, so you may also look for these in person in your Walmart store or wherever else Milani is sold. I just wish Ulta would do some more bubble wrapping. But basically what we're talking about here with the Gilded Minis, they're 6 color palettes, and that actually is a really good amount for me, I think. It gives you a certain color story, a certain color family. It feels very manageable, very easy to get into. You can kind of visualize where your look is going to go, but there's enough shade variety to where you don't have to turn out exactly the same look every time. I could easily, for example, use this one called the Wind Down and turn out a fully matte look one day, a very shimmery look the next, or maybe a couple of different one shadow looks are in here as well. No real frills with the packaging, it's just a standard compact, but yeah, they're called Gilded Mini palettes, and they all kind of stay in a bit of a neutral color family, and I thought I'd walk you up to my favorite one. So starting with number 5, I guess my least favorite. I wouldn't say that it's bad by any means, but it's just stacked up with the rest. It's definitely not my biggest recommendation, and it's the one called It's All Rosé. And my basic reason for not loving this one is that it's very low contrast. Now, if you're into just a real soft haze of rosiness on the eyes, you might really like this. The mattes in here are this cream. We have a little bit like kind of richer shade. This is going to be the deepest one in the whole palette, kind of like deep dusty rose, and then a little bit warmer kind of like brownish rose. For shimmer, this one has some pretty like pink reflectivity. There's also a soft champagne and one with a little more gold in it as well. Texture wise, by the way, this one is kind of a little bit different as far as shimmers go. You'll notice me mention several of these throughout these palettes where they're not really those soft creamy velvety shimmers, but it's like they're trying to be more of a glaze type shade. They do infuse some sparkle and they can be beautiful on the eyes, but they're not going to be like a full-on ultra full coverage shimmer eyeshadow. So that's kind of what I'm noticing with this shade on the end. But the look I did with it, it was pretty. It wasn't a problem. It's definitely a look I could enjoy day to day, but even working in that deepest shade, it just doesn't get very dark for me, and I think that affects the variety of looks you can ultimately get with this one. And I know it's only a 6 color palette, so maybe you shouldn't expect a ton of variety, but as you'll see with the other ones, I think there's more. So this would be my lowest ranked palette out of the 5. My number 4 palette is actually, like, when I used it, it's a look I really enjoyed, but I just feel like it's more common in the overall eyeshadow landscape. We see a lot of warmth, and I own a lot of warm palettes. This is pretty, this is well balanced, and it's nice quality. So if you're looking for something like this, it's a good option. I mean, there's a nice deep rich matte brown, mattes here, here, and here. They're all fully usable. Both of the shimmers in here I think are very like rich and pretty and really show their metallic nature very easily on the eyes. It's a very what you see is what you get palette here, okay? But it's just one of those where, yes, I like a warm palette, but maybe I'm just looking for something a little bit different these days. I don't know. I seriously can't pick apart the quality at all on this one, but just like ranking these in my own personal preference, it just ranks a little lower because I feel like I own a lot of this already and I just see a lot of this everywhere. So just know if you're on the lookout for a palette like this is a really good option. It's the shade called Champagne Problems. It's good. It's just not my top pick because it's not very unique to me. Now the next one I really think is pretty and very, very versatile, and it's just the kind of neutral palette maybe I'm a little bit more on the lookout for these days. It's the one called Call Me Old Fashioned, and this is potentially a really smoky eye here. I love that they put in a black that's kind of like a soft black. It's a satin finish black, and guys, if you've ever struggled using all out black eyeshadow, this one makes it a lot easier. It's a very simple blend with that one. And then we've got like a matte right here, a nice cool brown, and this soft sort of off-white. Very nice color choices, I think, with the mattes in there. And we also have an absolutely dazzling, like sort of silver pearl type color. And I like this also, little bit of like dirty penny kind of warmth that's in there too. And then we have a shade right here, this taupe, that's kind of one of those where it's firm, it's sort of a glaze of color. It can give you a softer shimmer on the eye. I definitely recommend applying a shade like that with your finger from these palettes. They just crop up here and there. It's even in one of my faves. But for the versatility and looks, you could completely sidestep the black and have a super everyday, like not too warm, not too cool, very classic eye with this palette. But when you do bring that in, it can become liner, it can become like smoky lower lash line, it can be smoky outer V, lifted eye look. It can go very glam to very natural. I think I just gouged one of those shadows with my fingernail. But truly, for only 6 shades, there's a lot of range here. I'm really proud of this little palette and I like it very much. My top 2, it's almost a toss-up. It's the one that's technically the absolute most consistent in this range, and it's one where like everybody should probably have it just for its basicness. And then there's one that I personally just really like for its color tone. I'm gonna put that one as first, and this is probably the very, very consistent quality one that everyone should have. It's named Whiskey Business. I love the name, and it's a fully matte one, okay? Fully matte eye palette here. Beautiful tones, just perfect balance, light, medium, deep. This is a great blended out color that's just a little step down from your all out cream. You've got a couple of kind of warm-ish, one a little bit warmer than the other, mid-tones, and 2 beautiful dark shades. I mean, if you're a brunette like me, one of these could even become an eyebrow shade very easily. But it's smooth, it's flawless. I loved the look I turned out with this because the shadow was so everyday, and I think people are looking for that naturally contoured eye, that eye that's very easy and low fuss and just like no big deal with the eyeshadow. That's kind of what I think about with this, like the type of look a lot of people are wanting these days. But I fluffed up the lashes and I went dark on my lower lash line, and I did a TikTok where I was wearing this also. I popped on a more dramatic lash in that video, and so many people loved the eye with that. And it was this palette, you know, it was basic eyeshadow, but it blended beautifully. It's pretty much a perfect gradient here, like so easy to start out in your crease with one of these, blend it out to here, blend your highlight in, pull in some darkness. It's a very well executed all matte small palette, and it probably goes a little bit cooler overall than the Milani Most Loved Mattes palette, the Ungilded whatever. Like, that's a beautiful all matte palette. Absolutely love it, but there's a lot of warmth. And if you're like, you know, I would love to get a hold of that formula, but I'm not really looking for all the orange or the pink, you might look into this one. This is really good. It's called Whiskey Business, and it's definitely one of the top ones in this grouping. Right up there with it, kind of the toss-up for me, this one called the Wind Down. I absolutely love the color scheme. And that's the one I'm wearing today. That's the one you'll see a little tutorial with. I was wearing this in another short video, and I was just amazed by the amount of comments that were like, I love the eye. And you know, it wasn't even really the subject matter of the look, but that was what a lot of the comments were about. And here, another well-balanced palette. I feel like you have 2 finishes of light, 2 finishes of mid-tone, and 2 finishes of dark. So this is matte, matte, and matte, but then you have shimmers that kind of pair with each. So could you do an all matte look with this? Easily. But you know, there are some fun shimmers to pop in. This is a beautiful, like really full on pearl. We have a gorgeous berry. This one's kind of one of those where you have that soft rosy haze. It's a glaze type of color, I'll call it. It's best applied with the finger. You'll see it explained in the tutorial. It ends up looking so pretty. Like, it's on the eyes looking so soft, and I did a look with it the other day, took a picture, and I was like, wow, that really turned out nice. So I guess those kinds of shades are growing on me, even though they're a little different texture than just your standard all-out super pigmented velvety shimmer. They still work, and they do add something a little different. I'm a sucker for this kind of color scheme, and I just love the way they pulled it off. And I think the smaller the palette, the more thoughtful the brand's decisions need to be with what they include. And I feel like these little 6 color palettes across the board were put together very well, with the exception maybe that first one that I mentioned, mentioned my number 5 pick, the Rosé one. I feel like everything else has so much nice balance and a beautiful range. My top 3, I honestly feel really strongly about all of them, but I would love to hear in the comments section, what are your favorites? Have you tried any of these yet? Like, what are some of your favorite looks to do with them? But for now, let's look at the tutorial for this. So I want to show you a little tutorial on the eye look I'm doing today, but I will back it up and share what's on my face. I really like what the whole complexion is doing right now. I used my NYX Bear With Me Blur. You saw this in a new at the drugstore video not too long ago. I wear that in light neutral, but today I paired it with my concealer serum, which I wear in light, and I thought that was actually a pretty good combo. I set that with the CoverGirl Clean Invisible. Don't love the packaging here, but as I said in a previous video, they've redone the formula, and it no longer contains shimmer, and it's actually a really pretty powder on. I use my Glowish powder from Huda all over my face, and then all my other face steps are from my Hourglass little elephant palette here. So the bronzer, combination of the blushes, the highlighter, even kind of set things with the ambient lighting powders that are in there. So that's the look so far. And then I primed with Milani eyeshadow primer. And I just sneezed at least 4 times in a row and my eyes are all watery. Had to blow my nose, completely messed up my nose makeup, redid the coverage, and now we're truly ready. So this palette is called the Wind Down, and I'm using my Persona double-ended brush, the one that says blend and apply. The blend side is nice and fluffy, and I'm going to go into that matte mauve color. And that's just going to go real soft throughout the crease, and it does make a little more impact than you might imagine. Seeing it in the palette there, I think, oh, that's just going to be really light, but it actually provides some contrast and is a beautiful starting point, I think, for this little palette. Who knew, like, sneezing really wrecks the face. It's usually followed up by nose blowing. It gets the eyes watering. Not a fan. So just getting this lightly in the crease, but you'll also notice it's kind of showing up above the crease as well, which is the intent. And then I'm going to go into my light shade right here, which is the matte one. There's a matte and a shimmer, and I'll let that come up above and all the way to the brow. The nice thing about these 6 color palettes, 6 is a good number for eyeshadow because especially if it's put together well, we have a couple of finishes of light, we have a couple of finishes of mid-tone, and a couple finishes of deep, and I think that's really beneficial here. So I'm going to go into now my darkest shade with my apply side of the brush so it's a little bit flatter, and I'm going to go over to this really pretty rich burgundy. Pick some up on the brush, and I'm going to put that on the outer part of my eyelid. So pretty. I had so many compliments on this look when I had it on in one of the shorts I posted. I think it was on Friday. Really getting into just going ahead and doing the quick videos when I have an idea instead of like sitting on it or thinking, oh, this has to be something like really planned out and plotted out. Like if it pops into my head, I try to go ahead and do it as soon as possible. I'm kind of realizing that short video format, you just got to go with it. Okay, see, so we're just patting this on, this beautiful matte shade. There's plenty of pigment there. Patting it on the lid. Flip the brush if you want to. This brush really lends itself to that because it's just a little fluffier than most flat brushes, and it diffuses to the crease really nicely. And all in all, the look's not looking terribly whiny at this point, but the addition of some upcoming shades is really gonna alter that. You can extend that darkness as much or as little as you want. You can always flip back to your blend side now. Fluffier brush, let it get all smoothed out. Love that. Okay, now I'm going to go to my flat side and go to this shade, which is a pretty deep color, but it has some beautiful shimmer, and it's a really nice kind of traditional shimmery texture. Go to that with my apply brush, and that's going to go over like the center of my lid and sort of overlap with my matte, just like so. Get it all the way up to the crease and all over the center of the lid. I think this would be a pretty like Valentine's type of look, you know? Kind of chocolate covered cherry vibes. I think once upon a time I did a Valentine's look and named it chocolate covered cherry. Look at that. Okay, so we're seeing a little bit more like, I guess, pink or berry come into this look now. And then I want to go to this shade. This shade is somewhat of the problem child of this palette. Like, it's pretty, and I've realized it truly is beautiful on the eyes, but it's a different feel from the other shimmers. It's really firm, and you get a swatch of it and it looks like just kind of a soft glaze type deal. And we have a cat entering the mix. It does not apply very effectively with a brush, but I pick up a good amount. Like, I swirl my finger, get some on, and then I apply that with my finger, and I tell you, this photographed like beautifully. I took a picture of it so I could really see, like, looking down, what's going on the lid with that shade, and it was so gorgeous. And it just brings a little bit of light to the look. Now, we could bring a lot of light to the look by incorporating that pearl, and we may do that around the inner corner, but I'm just saying, this shade actually turns out really pretty. Just don't be shy with it. Get a good amount on your finger and press it onto the lid wherever you want it to go. It's okay to have different finishes. I'm not like anti-experimental shimmer finishes and palettes, although it might seem like I'm kind of critical, but I just don't want to have to like feel like I'm working super hard to get the look. I want it to come with ease. I want it to be user-friendly. So I'm getting it, but I would say I go back to the palette a time or two just to get a little more and build that up. But the look and the finish is actually really pretty from that shade. You just have to take a little different approach with it, but I kind of feel like it's worthwhile, and I'm kind of a believer in that shade now. So now I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to lighten up around my inner corner with our pearly color right here, and I think as of now we'll have used all the shades in the palette. And this is my Define and Smudge brush. So there's this great little detail side, and I can use a nicely pigmented pearly shade, just like so. Liven up that inner corner and just bring it to meet that other shimmer that you put on. Really nice. And then I like using this smudge side if I just want to intensify my outer corner anymore. And you can do one of two things. You could blend these two deepest shades. You could use just one or the other. I'll take the one with a little shimmer, because it offers just a little more color, you know? And you can hit that outer corner with that, and it's the perfect shape. Okay, see how I just added intensity and it ended up in just the right kind of smoky area there? And then I'm going to go over and blend the edge again, but just the shadow placement is perfection with this smudge side. So again, I went into the deepest shimmer and just kind of doing like a half moon right over the edge there. So perfect. You can tell I'm locked into what I'm doing because, I mean, there's a cat just treating it like a jungle gym back here, and hi Bebe, I love you. Okay, then we can go back to our blend and apply brush, use that fluffy side, just make sure the edges are nice and soft. Really pretty. And if we've lost anything on the lid, intensity-wise, since we've been kind of blending and adding some more, you know, you can go back to your little shimmer and you can reinforce that. Just give a little tap over the lid. And guys, I've been getting more into lining my lower inner rim and making a really intense look with it. What I'm going to do today is use two of my Persona pencil liners. I'm going to use black and also the plum. And with the black, I'm going to go across my upper lash line, and we'll bring in a little more shadow in a minute to help us smudge the lower lash line. But I'm just taking that black nice and easy, really close to the lashes. Beautiful intensity there. I adore these liners, by the way. Their staying power is awesome. And I really do like these for inner rim stuff. They last really well that way. Pretty much better than anything else I currently own. So upper lash line is taken care of. Then I'm also going to do black on the inner rim. Yes, nice and rich and black. Doesn't have to take a long time, but you gotta get it in there. I've just been seeing like some celebrities photographed recently who clearly have the waterline done in this way, and it's like really dark but beautifully softened out, and it's a really pretty look. Now comes the plum, and this is going to be kind of our softening shade, and this is going to actually go on the skin in between the lashes. You could do this with black. You could smudge a black out this way, but I just find this plum really easy to use like this because it's just by nature of its color. It's a little softer than the black, and it just makes the blend really easy. So again, This is on the skin. We feel like we're putting it almost in between our lashes, pretty much all the way across the lash line. And then you can soften that a little bit with your finger. Could you stop there? Yes, but we're going for ultra soft. So we're gonna bring in a little bit of shadow. Grab the smudge and define and use the define end. Clear off any of the light shimmer that was on there. And then I'm gonna go to some of my dark matte and just use that lightly all over that lower lash line. And you can have a smoky lower lash line without having a messy lower lash, okay? You can still keep this pretty tight to the eye. Like, there's a point where I don't want it to really reach beyond, and having mascara on is going to add another layer to this softness, okay? Kind of a full lower lash is really pretty with this look. But just get all over there. Use one of your 2 darkest shades. And yeah, it's soft, it's smoky. I really like it. And the mascara just adds a lot at this point. So hang on. Finished eye now. I've got my L'Oreal Lash Paradise on the upper lashes and Cali Ray Come Hell or High Water on the lower lashes. And do you see what I mean about how having that little bit of fringe just totally plays into the softened, smoky kind of lower lash line? Also, I've found some half lashes that I absolutely love. I got these on Amazon and they're like a little bit more dramatic than most half lashes are, and I don't have them on today, but that's a really pretty addition as well. I wore some of those over the weekend. On my lips, there is a new product from Lawless. It's like a tinted, it's forget the filler, but in a tinted lip balm, and I'm wearing the shade Baby Doll, which is a really pretty, like, kind of bubblegummy pink. I'm actually enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would, but I blended into that some Lead the Way from Maybelline Superstay just to define it a little bit more and make it seem a bit more finished. But yeah, that's a little how-to on how to use one of my favorite Milani Gilded Mini Palettes. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your day to watch this review. I hope it was useful. If you're thinking about any of these palettes, I think they are a good deal for $10. They are excellent quality. I was watching somebody on TikTok the other day and they were saying, just skip the drugstore for eyeshadow and blush. You just gotta go high end for that. And I couldn't disagree more. Like, there are some amazing eyeshadows in the drugstore and these are some of them. Okay, so thank you for watching, guys, and I will see you again very soon. I love you. Bye.